Hello, everybody. You're watching the Mike Nelson Show. I want to thank everybody who's already subscribed to the channel around the world. We have over 600 subscribers now, so I want to thank everybody. We haven't been doing this channel for not even a year, so without your support, we wouldn't be anywhere. Today, I got a very special guest today. I got Michael J. Miller. How you doing today, Michael?
I'm great, thanks. Happening. Doing well.
All
How
right,
you doing?
so I'm doing pretty good. It's Saturday. Saturdays are always good. Because for me at least I'm off. So, it's like 2 days off, so that's always good.
Ah, yeah, for sure. Rock and roll all weekend.
That's right. So when is your musical journey begin, Michael? When did it all kick off for you?
Oh, geez, it started when I was a kid. Um, I grew up in a musical family. My father played in the Air Force band. He played saxophone and clarinet. My mother played piano. My oldest brother used to buy every single that came out. Back then it was 45s. He'd buy, the hottest 45 every week. So I'd hear every song, every new song from the time I was a little kid. And let's see, uh, my sister played piano. My other brother had a guitar, and I used to try and fool around it, though I couldn't make a note. And then when I was 9 years old, I started taking guitar lessons. So fortunately for me, it kicked in, and by the time I was 12, I was writing my own songs or getting ideas, putting some chord changes together that sounded like something cool that I've never heard before. And I had my first band, joined my first band when I was 14 years old, which was cool. And we started to do some high school gigs and other shows around the town, right? And local gigs and whatever. And that went on till the other guys in my group graduated from high school and they went off to university. And that's when I moved from my small town to Toronto and put together the metal band called Rapid Tears. And we had a few albums out. That went, it was going well. It looked like we were on our way, but then some crap happened, as it does to a lot of bands. And things went sour, and that was it for the band at that point. So I reformed another group with some of the members called Adrenaline, and we got a German record deal, and we released an album called Dedicated. It got released all over Europe and Asia and stuff, and it never got an American deal. It was pretty weird because it was a great sounding record. And things started to go a little weird there too, and that's when I decided to go solo. So it's been MJM since after 2000, after the change of the millennium.
Now let's go back to the beginning here. Why did you specifically pick up the guitar? You got a lot of guitars there in the background. Why did you
Yeah.
pick up the guitar and not the drums or the bass or the piano?
Well, that's a really funny question. I love it because, to tell you the truth, I wanted to play the drums.
All right.
And my parents wouldn't let me have drums. They said, no, you're going to learn the guitar. And I said, okay, as long as I can have that electric guitar I see in this catalog. And they said, okay. But then my older brother, he said, don't buy him that. That's a piece of junk. And so they went and picked out an acoustic guitar for me. And to my dismay, on Christmas morning, there's this acoustic guitar. But nonetheless, yeah, I kind of went, oh. But nonetheless, I was appreciative of it. And it was a good acoustic guitar. And I learned just fine on it. And so I kind of got my arm twisted into learning guitar. Isn't that funny? I
Yeah,
don't
it is.
regret it now. I thank them very much.
Now, you grew up in Canada in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
growing up in Canada in the 70s, there was a lot of great bands coming out like April Wine, Rush, Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush, Alex Webster. Did these guys ever did they ever play a role in your development? How do you think that kind of music, made you a guitar player that you are today?
Most certainly it did play a role. I remember being one of my first concerts I ever saw as a young kid, like 14 years old. I got to see Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush, and the big hype right around Frank Marino is at that point was I lived near Detroit, right? It's where my town was, just up the lake, a couple hours from Detroit. And Frank Marino had just played there, and there was a riot. People were actually the show was sold out, and 3 people got killed trying to get into the concert. And the Frank Marino at Cobo Hall. That's the same show that you see the First Kiss live album, Cobo Hall. Yeah. So I thought that was a pretty big deal, and he was pretty popular. So I definitely listened to Frank Marino. He did a deadly show when I saw him. I think Bob Seger actually opened up for him. That's how big he was doing then.
That's crazy.
Right? Wow. Yeah. April Wine had good songs happening back then for sure. I mean, I was at a pretty young, influential age. These bands are all older than me. So I was digging it all. I think other bands I listened to were like Grand Funk, and someone who really sold me on the guitar was Johnny Winter. Johnny and Edgar Winter. When I heard Johnny's playing, it just made me have to learn how to play like that. And I started, like, I listened to that album till I wore it out, right? And I tried learning every lick I heard him do. And yeah, Johnny Winter was probably one of the biggest influences on my guitar playing. Though I'm metal and he's blues, his lead guitar playing was sensational.
How did you get into the metal scene, with Rapid Tears being your first like pro band? How did you get into that scene, up in Canada? How did that happen?
Well, I still listen to like heavy metal, like Black Sabbath, of course. I had my first Sabbath album when I was in grade 8, and Paranoid, and then Master of Reality. So that heavy sound, I just really liked the heavy guitar sound. So believe it or not, that Marshall you see in the background, that's the 1970s Marshall stack.
Wow.
And I found it used in the newspaper, and I told my dad that I wanted to get this amp, and he said, "Well, how are you going to pay for it?" I said, "Well, can you buy it for me?" He said, "No, you have to get a job." So he actually got me a job as a milkman, and I was a milkman at 16 years old delivering milk. And so I earned half the money, and then he gave me the other half, and I bought that stack. So that you may see, if you're familiar with Marshall equipment, the grill cloth back then wasn't black; it was gray checkers. And in the early 80s, Marshall turned to black grill cloth. So I said to the other guitar player in my band, we both had stacks. I said, let's take our speakers out and spray paint the grill cloth black so they look newer. So we did that, spray painted them black, and that's why my 70s Marshalls have black grill cloth.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I've got a few Marshall systems, 5 actually.
So how was the Rapid Tears, band? You guys did a couple albums. Did you guys tour the world, or how was that project?
We were touring Canada before we put out an album, and what happened was the agents were not that considerate with how they were routing us. We would find ourselves going like seriously like 12 hours north and then coming back 8 hours south to go another 10 hours north. And we were doing this roundabout sort of crisscrossing destinations when we wish they kind of would have booked us like this, but they didn't do that. And I think we were in Montreal at the time, and we were talking going through the city, and I said, this isn't getting us anywhere. We've got to get an album out. And we actually finished that gig and talked some more and called the agent and said we wanted him to cancel the rest of the tour. We're coming back. We had an offer from a record company, and we came back and we signed a deal and put out the first Rapid Tears album, Honestly, was called. And it was the right decision because it felt like we were just spinning our wheels traveling around playing our music and cover music to get the bookings. And so our first album came out, and the radio stations were pretty receptive. It's funny, the main radio station here, Q107 is called, they had a show called Q107 Rock Wars, in which They start the show on a Monday, and they would bring out two new singles, and they put them up against each other. They play one and then the other, and then they'd have the public phone into the station and
Wow.
vote. So our single was called Headbang, and I think it went up the first day. It went up against like Thin Lizzy or something. So you know, they're a
Wow.
good band, right? And the phone calls made us win the Monday, and then Tuesday up again. Where Thin Lizzy got butted out by us, and Tuesday it was 10cc. We won again. Wednesday was a local band called Streetheart, who happened to turn into Loverboy. Believe it or not,
Wow.
half the band is Loverboy,
Okay.
and we beat them too. Thursday, I can't remember what band it was, but we won again. And then Friday, if you won all 5 days of the Rock Wars, you'd go in the Q107 Rock Wars Hall of Fame. Well,
Okay.
on Friday, they put us up against, get a load of this, Van Halen,
Oh.
Pretty Woman. Oh,
Wow. So
well, we
that.
didn't win.
Yeah,
So we
obviously.
never
Yeah.
wound up in the Hall of Fame. Thanks, Van
Yeah.
Halen. Actually, that's a Roy Orbison song, but yeah,
You
yeah,
made it to the
Diamond
fifth day
Dave.
though.
What's
You
that?
made it to the fifth day though, at least. Made it to
Yeah,
Friday. Yeah.
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 That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, and it was cool. It was Van Halen. So, you know,
What can you do,
that's
right?
what can you do? What can you do? Yeah.
Now,
Then we were doing lots of shows around town, and television was being pretty supportive to us too. There was a new show, a show kind of like MTV, but it was a Canadian thing. It was called back then it was called The New Music, and they would feature new Canadian talent, which would be syndicated across the country in all major cities. They'd air the show, right? At different times. Um, so they were covering us, and then we went to work on our second album, and when it came out, the TV stations again were right on top of our shows, and they aired a number of our shows. One of the bigger ones was us and Exciter, and that went pretty good. They aired that and syndicated across the country again. Um, and then after that, things started to get a little sour. It was too bad. There was some internal conflict within the group, and the singer wound up moving to Sweden.
wow.
Yeah, which I still talk to. We're actually working on some music right now for another Rapid Tears album, believe it or not.
Really?
Take that world. Yeah, there will be another Rapid Tears album.
Well, after all these years, wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty heavy stuff. You know, it's funny. There's a new book. I wish I could show it to you, but I left it somewhere. A new book called The Eve of Darkness, and it features Rapid Tears are one of the main features of the book. There's April Wine and Triumph in there, and anyways, what was I gonna say? Uh, oh boy, I hit a dead spot in my brain. Um, oh yeah, here's what it was. So the guys that were putting the book together told me they had a friend that could take all our cassette tapes and turn them into digital for us. I said, great. So I had a box of them all saved and protected, sealed. So I met the guy who was cool. I trusted him with the tapes, and a month later he came back to me with everything on CD, and I started going through them and noticed that there was hundreds of great songs just in recorded live off the floor on like a little ghetto blaster or something, right? And so actually that the last song on the MJM 4 album, Feather, was actually a song I had recorded on an acoustic guitar that was on one of those tapes. And as soon as I heard it, I remembered everything I wanted to do with the song, and I put it in production, and it came out on MJM4.
Now let's fast forward to MGM. How did you get that solo, career kicked off? You started that in the early 2000s around there. So basically this was like 20 years after Rapid Tears, but how did that finally get going?
Well, there was the Rapid Tears and then a Void, and then I put together that Adrenaline thing. And um, I was always writing music and recording kind of demos in my own studio. And I had been compiling stuff and developing my own vocal voice. I was always a background singer, but I was working more and more on my lead vocal voice. And what really happened was in the Adrenaline thing, the first singer had to get rid of, and then we tried another guy, and we were recording our second Adrenaline album, and the singer was a good singer, but I was in the studio with him, and it seemed week after week I wasn't getting anywhere, or he wasn't getting anywhere. And he turned to me and he said, "You know, Mike, I feel really uncomfortable when you're sitting here watching me with a microscope every word and syllable I sing. Would you mind not showing up at the studio when I'm doing my vocal parts?" Meanwhile, I'm the songwriter, wrote the songs, right? I went, "Really? That's really too bad. I never heard that from a singer I'm working with. But okay, Mark, sure, I'll stay away for a while." So I left him and the producer to do vocals on my heavy songs. And I gave them, believe it or not, I left it for about 2.5, 3 months. Just let them go to it because there was a number of songs I wanted to get done. And then I called the producer 2.5 months later. I said, "Okay, it's been long enough. I want to hear what has happened. I want to hear what the guy is saying." He said, "Okay, I'll make up a rough mix of what we've got so far." And so I picked up the tape, brought it home, all excited to hear what the new songs were going to be. And I put it, I was sitting there with my girlfriend at the time, and the song came on. It was sounding cool. And then his singing started, and I just kind of like, I was like a candle that melted. I went like this, I went, "Oh, you got to be kidding." Like we're a heavy band, and he was singing like a ballerina on top of my heavy metal. You know what I mean? Like, I just went, "This is not happening." And I called the rest of the band members and I said, "I can't have this singing on this music. This guy's a great singer, belongs to a different band. We're metal. We're not, I don't need that type of vocal. I don't want that type of vocal on my songs. It's killing the song." And it turned into this whole stupid thing. I mean, all the band was in support of me, but the singer thought he'd try and get the band on his side. And I went to a meeting with them all and I said, "You know what, guys? I quit. I quit my own band."
Wow.
And none of the other members went with the singer. They all said, "Well, Mike, what do you want to do? What do you want to do now?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to go solo. We're going to take the new music I have and I'm going to sing on it. That way I won't have somebody that's going to move to Sweden, take off, or someone that's uncomfortable singing in the room while I'm there, right?" And I said, I won't abandon myself. I'll be here for me, and I am the new vocalist. So I already had a lot of music in demo form, and I just had to get it in the proper studio and recorded. And I was the lead vocalist, and that's how MJM started.
So thoughts on your newest record, four? This is your fourth solo record. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm very happy with it. I love every song. When I listen to it, I'm on a trip from the beginning right to the final note.
And what was the process of like recording this album? Did you kind of write this because it came out 2020, right?
Yeah, the COVID thing was a real bummer
Yeah,
in that
talking about
sense.
COVID. So how was that whole situation for you?
Oh, it sucked huge. Yeah, I had just started, it had just came out, and requests for interviews were happening, magazine interviews were happening, and then a lot of magazines actually said, "You know what? Because of this COVID thing, we're not even going to do a publication until it's over. No
Yeah.
one's going out, no one's going to newsstands, no one's buying our publications, we're not going to publish until everything comes back to normal. And it really put things, really slowed things down. We couldn't go out and play. And it pretty well left me to social media only to promote it.
So now, what's the plan moving forward to promote this record? Are you planning on doing some touring, or what's the plan for this record?
Well, we are, yeah, we're planning to do some touring. We were working on a southern U.S. tour earlier, and the promoter that was setting it up was in Fort Myers, Florida. And then all this bad luck happens. They had that hurricane,
Oh
two
yeah,
of
that's
them,
right. Yeah.
that flattened Fort Myers, and there were some clubs there. Like he lost a couple friends that lived along the coastline. They got swept away in their cottage, in their home, right? And some of the clubs got leveled, and we never really regrouped properly to get a tour happening. So the U.S. tour is a little bit on hold, unfortunately, right now. We're booking shows around Toronto right now, and we're looking for interested promoters and agents that want to book the act. You know, a bit of an unfortunate thing is a lot of places. I went through this with Rapid Tears. They want you to play cover music to
Yeah.
play in their club, which, like, we're an original act. I mean, we do a show. It's about an hour and 10 minutes, and it's kick ass, and it's just our music. And to go diluting that with a Van Halen song or something like that is like, it's not us. You know, I'd rather people saw us. I can promise you're guaranteed to get your ass kicked from our own music. We don't need to play someone else's cover music. We're good enough that we're our own artist. We are us, you know.
Can you talk a little
So
bit about the concept of the new album for? I know it's a concept record. Can you talk about that?
yeah, sure. As you notice, there's an alien on the front
Yeah.
with a 4 on its forehead. Forehead. Yeah, there's a lot of songs that kind of deal with space and the concept of I could pick different song titles, like Could It Be? If you listen to the lyrics, could it be Light from Distant Star? That's looking at a star, seeing it move, thinking, is that a spaceship or something? Is there someone up there watching us? Are can they see what we're doing? And are we being watched by alien cultures or whatever? And then another song, Humanoid, is about aliens being on Earth already, breeding with humans, making humanoids. And the song Treasure, that is about the 7 exoplanets that were discovered that were found to be habitable by the human race, possibly habitable, right? In a habitable zone. Yeah, they're only 40 light years away.
Now with Michael J. Miller band, you guys have a very your sound is definitely, you guys don't try to, cater to today's audiences. Can you talk about that? How some bands they kind of just sell out, and you guys are definitely, just straightforward, hard rock, heavy metal, and it has a really, like doesn't have a digital sound, which is kind of refreshing to hear in 2023.
Thanks for noticing that. Yeah. Well, that's my guitar sound. I can't help being a heavy guitar player. I'll always sound that way. And it kind of freaks me out too when I listen to stuff on the radio that where there's no guitar in a lot of songs, unless you go to a metal station. If you listen to standard radio format,
Yeah,
it's not metal at all. It's hurting stuff that I can't stand to
it's just
listen
a
to.
computer playing.
Yeah, exactly. Can't do that. No, I write my songs on the guitar and sing them, and I use a real band, and um I just can't really change my style and sound from what I am. Um Even adding a little bit of rap and stuff in there, which someone suggested, is kind of a leaves a bad flavor in my you know in my mouth, because I'm not a rapper. and it's another music that's kind of different than metal.
For
That's for
sure.
sure.
Another world,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, sticking true to my guns has been a natural process for me. It hasn't it'd be harder to change into that stuff than it would be to stay as what I am, which is what I want to be. I want to make that traditional metal for the people that like metal. And I want to keep the vocals as real vocals, real singing, you know.
Last question here. What advice do you have for, young guitar players out there?
Practice, practice, practice. Doesn't matter if your fingers hurt, get used to it. They'll toughen up if you keep practicing. Don't run away from your guitar every time your fingers hurt, because they'll never get tough. You've got to be tough. And by the way, the business is tough. So learn to take a lot of stuff that rubs you the wrong way, but stick with it. Stick with it.
All right. I want to thank you, Michael, for your time today. It was great talking to you.
I want to thank you, Mike, and the Mike Nelson Radio Show for having MJM on, and maybe we'll talk again.
All right. Remember to stay heavy, everybody.
Okay. Cheers. Rock and roll, everybody.